Every day, at the same time, Otto would arrive with slow steps, leaning on a dark wooden cane he had carved himself decades ago. He always wore a felt hat, a gray beret, or on colder days, his old worn-out military coat. But what drew the most attention wasn't his clothing or his restrained stiffness, it was the music. As soon as he sat down, Otto would take from a bag a small battery-powered radio, an old notebook, and he would sing. It was always the same melody. No accompaniment, no instruments. A soft song, laden with melancholy, that began in a low tone and gained strength in the chorus. The words were in German, but even for those who didn't understand, there was something touching in that tired voice that seemed to draw notes straight from the heart. Most people passed by in a hurry. Some looked with curiosity, others didn't notice at all. The older locals had grown used to him. "It's Mr. Otto," they would say. "He sings every day, on that bench. No one knows why." Some children even called him the old man with the sad song. No one ever got close enough to ask. Until, on a morning of clear skies and calm winds, something different happened. A young man with a guitar on his back, disheveled hair, and an attentive gaze sat on the other side of the square. Leo was a street musician, the kind who lived off coins and applause, but with a sharp ear and a rare sensitivity to things left unsaid. He noticed Otto from a distance. He watched his silent routine, the gentle gesture of adjusting the radio's volume before beginning to sing. And when he heard the song for the first time, he got goosebumps. That melody had something special. It didn't sound like any known tune. It sounded intimate, personal, like a memory turned into sound. In the days that followed, Leo started coming to the square at the same time, just to hear the old man sing. He didn't dare interrupt, but he discreetly recorded a snippet of the song with his phone. Not out of disrespect, but out of reverence. He wanted to keep it. He wanted to understand. That night, at home, Leo posted the video on social media. Alongside the recording, he wrote, "Every day, this gentleman sings this song alone, in the same square. Does anyone recognize it? Feels like something the world should hear." He never imagined the video would grow so quickly. Within hours, hundreds of likes. Curious, emotional, even confused comments. Some said it reminded them of an old hymn. Others claimed they had never heard something so beautiful and sad at the same time. But no one knew where it came from. The next day, Otto returned to the bench. He sat as always, unaware that, at that very moment, his voice was already echoing around the world. And Leo, seeing him once again, felt that there was something more than just music. Something he needed to uncover. Because that song, that same song an old soldier sang every day, as if speaking to the ghosts of the past, seemed to hold a story that still needed to be told. And the square, once just a backdrop for a forgotten routine, was about to become the stage for a recovered memory. A memory that, until then, only Otto knew. Otto never knew what it meant to go viral. To him, the word sounded like a disease, something to avoid. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, and quickly from all corners of the country, thousands of people were moved by his voice. The video posted by Leo, just over a minute long, had surpassed 200,000 shares in 2 days. Renowned musicians commented on it, experts tried to identify the song, and many people simply cried upon hearing the old soldier's voice. But Otto remained seated on the same bench, unaware of it all. To him, the world was still made of slow steps, fixed schedules, and memories that refused to leave. It was there, in that quiet square, that he reconnected with something he could never forget. And it was there that he sang, as if lighting a candle in the darkness within. On the morning of the 3rd day after the video was posted, Leo decided to speak with him. The old man was there, as always, adjusting the radio, cleaning his coat, ready to sing. The young man approached slowly, respectfully. "Excuse me, may I sit?" Otto looked at him with suspicion but gave a small nod. Silence. After a few seconds, Leo pulled his phone from his pocket. I recorded your song. I couldn't resist. I thought it was beautiful. I posted it online and it's touching a lot of people." Otto frowned. He didn't understand at first. Then Leo showed him the video. The number of views, the comments. He slowly scrolled through messages from people saying they were moved, that they listened to the song with their parents, that they felt something deep even without understanding the lyrics. The old man said nothing. but his eyes filled with tears. He reached into the inner pocket of his coat and carefully pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was an old time-stained music sheet. Alongside it, a letter. "This song," he began, his voice hoarse, "was written by someone who never came back." Leo felt a chill run down his spine. Otto continued. "His name was Wilhelm. He was my friend, my brother in the war. He used to compose songs in the trenches, between bombings. The last one he wrote was this one. He asked me to memorize it, to carry it with me, if he didn't return. 'Sing it for me, Otto,' he said." Otto paused. Emotion was evident. Leo didn't dare interrupt. "He died the next day. And I sang. At the improvised burial. Then on the ship back home. Then alone. Every day, so I wouldn't forget." Leo, overwhelmed, took the guitar from his back. "Can I play with you?" Otto hesitated, then nodded. For the first time in decades, the song had accompaniment. Guitar and voice. Youth and memory. And the few passers-by in the square stopped. They filmed. They cried. The internet exploded again. That night, a different message arrived in Leo's inbox. It was from a woman. Her name was Elizabeth Roth. She wrote, "My father's name was Wilhelm Roth. He died in World War II. I never met him. My mother used to say he wrote songs at the front. When I heard this video, I just knew deep in my soul that it was him. The melody, the lyrics, the name Otto. Please. I need to speak to this man." Leo read the message 3 times, his heart racing. He knew this was bigger than him. It was a story time had tried to erase, but that chance, or maybe fate, had decided to rewrite. The next morning, when he found Otto in the square, the old man's eyes seemed more distant than ever. "Otto, I found someone." The ex-soldier looked at Leo, as if carrying hope and fear in equal measure. "Wilhelm's daughter. She's alive. And she wants to meet you." Silence. After a long pause, Otto lowered his head and murmured, "I thought I had failed him. That the promise had died with me." Leo softly replied, "The promise was alive, in your voice." And at that moment, the square was no longer just a square. It was a place where music crossed decades to fulfill a final wish. And Otto, the man forgotten by time, was about to give meaning to the song he had sung every day of his life. When Otto woke up that morning, the light coming through the window felt different. Maybe it was the sky. Maybe it was him. He dressed carefully, a pressed shirt, his old suspenders, and in the inner pocket of his jacket, the folded sheet music he had carried for over 70 years. It wasn't just paper. It was memory. It was a mission. Leo arrived in his brother's borrowed car. He had insisted on picking Otto up himself. In the passenger seat, Otto remained silent, his eyes turned to the window, as if watching not only the streets go by, but the years. He murmured, almost like a prayer, "I hope she looks like him, or like her mother." The trip to the small town where Elizabeth lived lasted just over an hour, but it seemed to carry the weight of a lifetime. When they arrived, she was at the door, standing nervously, a handkerchief in her hands. She had graying hair and light eyes, very similar to Wilhelm's in the faded photos from his youth. When Otto got out of the car, the two stared at each other for several long seconds. No words were spoken, but there was a silent recognition between them, as if the absence had left marks only they could understand. "You're Otto?" she asked with a trembling voice. He nodded. He took the sheet music from his pocket, the same one he had sung from every day on the park bench. Then, with trembling hands, he handed her the letter. It was a page torn from a notebook, written in pencil, almost erased by time. But still readable. And still alive. Elizabeth opened it slowly. The silence was dense, as if the whole world paused to listen. She read the letter with tearful eyes. The handwriting was Wilhelm's. The words, simple. He spoke of the war, of fear, of longing. And then the final part. "If I don't come back, know that I sang for her. For my daughter. Even without knowing her. Because love doesn't need presents to exist. And Otto, my brother, my friend, sing for me. Until she hears it." Elizabeth dropped to her knees, hugging the letter to her chest. Otto stepped closer and gently touched her shoulder. I sang. Every day. She looked at him with tear-filled eyes and smiled through her tears. And I heard it. Without even knowing. Leo, standing at a distance, discreetly wiped away his tears. He knew he was witnessing something rare. A cycle closing. A promise fulfilled. In the hours that followed, they spoke like old friends. Otto told her about Wilhelm, his fears, his jokes, the songs he composed in the trenches to keep others alive inside. Elizabeth showed family photos, shared how her mother had never let them forget her father's name. And now, finally, there was more than just a name. There was sound. There was story. Before leaving, Otto made one final request. May we sing, together? Elizabeth nodded. Leo picked up the guitar and sat beside them. And there, in that simple backyard, under the shade of a leafy tree, the voices came together. 3 generations. 3 destinies brought together by a song. The footage of that moment was posted days later. Titled The Sung Promise, it reached millions of people within days. More than that, it rekindled something in the hearts of many, the certainty that music preserves memory, and that friendship, even after death, can cross the boundaries of time. Otto returned to the square days later. Sat on the same bench. But this time, he didn't sing alone. A school choir began visiting him on Fridays. Leo came whenever he could. Sometimes, Elizabeth came too. And Wilhelm's song, once forgotten, was now taught in schools, played on radios, and known as a hymn of love, longing, and resilience. Otto never wanted fame. He never did. But deep down, he felt that his friend, the skinny young man who handed him a song at the end of the war, would be smiling. Because she heard it. Because someone heard it. Because the promise was kept. Autumn had arrived in the city, bringing golden tones to the leaves and a gentler wind, as if even nature respected the silence that now surrounded Otto. After reuniting with Elizabeth, the old soldier no longer needed to sing every day in the square, but he still did, sometimes. Not out of promise, but out of longing. The story had spread like wildfire through newspapers, radio stations, and social media. The song that had once been sung only to inattentive passers-by now echoed in theaters, schools, and even military ceremonies. But none of that seemed to matter as much as what was happening inside each person who had heard it. Leo, for example, was never the same again. The young street musician, once aimless, found purpose. He created a social project that taught music to the elderly and war veterans in nursing homes. He called it Notes of Time. And every new group began by learning Wilhelm's melody. Because this song isn't just about war. It's about life being remembered, he would say. Elizabeth, now at peace, began visiting Otto often. At first, it was just to talk, share memories, and listen to stories. But soon, with Otto's encouragement, she began to write. She recorded everything, the letter, the song, the life of the father she never knew, and the friend who represented him for so many years. The book would be published months later under the title, Sing for Me. As for Otto, he seemed to grow old all at once, like someone who had completed their final mission. He still walked with steady steps, but there was a gentle weariness in his eyes. A kind of exhaustion that didn't ask for rest, only contemplation. A dignified ending. It was during a tribute on the city's anniversary that he went up on stage for the last time. He sat beside Leo and Elizabeth. The children's choir began to sing, just like they did every Friday, and Otto simply smiled. When the music ended, he took the old sheet music from his pocket and handed it to one of the students. "It's yours now," he said, his voice choked with emotion. The applause that followed wasn't for the performance. It was for the story. For the devotion. For everything that song had carried through the years, through loss and reunion. A few months later, Otto fell ill. Pneumonia. It was winter, and the cold seemed determined to return everything to silence. But he wasn't struggling. He was simply resting. In his hospital bed, beside a window facing the setting sun, he received daily visits from Elizabeth, Leo, and even the children from the choir. They sang softly, close to his ear. And he smiled. On a quiet afternoon, as the sun slowly said goodbye, Otto closed his eyes. There was no pain. Only a soft sigh, and the nurses say, a final melody hummed in a low voice. At the funeral, there was no bitter mourning. There was gratitude. The ceremony was simple, but filled with music. Leo played the guitar. Elizabeth read a passage from her father's letter. And the children sang. It was the most beautiful farewell one could ever have. In the square, the bench where Otto used to sit now bore a small plaque. Here sat a soldier. But his weapon was memory. And his bullet, a song. Today, every time someone sings that melody, a promise is renewed. And what once seemed like a simple story of a lonely old man became something greater. A bridge between past and present, between war and peace, between forgetfulness and redemption. Because sometimes, the song of a soldier doesn't end when he stops singing. It echoes. In new voices. In touched hearts. And in silences that, in the end, learn to sing too. Months had passed since Otto's passing. The city was no longer the same, and not just because of the absence of that slow-walking, deep-gazing man. Something invisible had changed. People seemed to listen more. To look at each other more. As if his story had awakened something in them long forgotten. The song Otto used to sing still echoed. But no longer from his fragile voice on the park bench. Now it lived in classrooms, cafes, train cars. The melody, titled Sing For Me, was re-recorded by famous musicians and featured in documentaries and plays. Language didn't matter. Each performer brought something of themselves to the composition created by Wilhelm and guarded by Otto like a relic. Leo, now known as the musician of the square, became a symbol of a generation that rediscovered the value of the past. Invited to interviews, award shows and festivals, he always made sure to say, "I just hit record." He made the story. The music was written by a man who loved his friend so much, he chose to live in his name. That's real art. With Elizabeth's support, Leo turned Notes of Time into a national NGO. The idea was simple: bring music to forgotten places. Hospitals. Retirement homes. Rural regions. But the impact was immense. Each performance became a circle of remembrance, where stories surfaced with tears, laughter, and songs. Elizabeth, in turn, published the book in honor of her father and Otto. It became an unexpected bestseller, translated into several languages. In one interview, she said, "I grew up not knowing who my father was. But I met someone who loved him. Otto taught me more about what family means than any genealogy ever could." Sometimes, the strongest bonds are stitched by pain, and sealed with music. The book would become a film the following year, keeping its original title, Sing For Me. The premiere brought together war veterans, musicians, young artists, and elderly participants from Leo's project. On screen, when the final scene showed Otto handing the sheet music to the child, a single tear rolled down Elizabeth's cheek, and was followed by dozens more in the audience. But perhaps the most touching thing happened far from the spotlight. In the square where it all began, there now stood a small wooden structure facing the bench where Otto used to sit. A simple memorial. Inside, a solar-powered music box softly played the melody, every day, at 3:17 p.m. Whenever the sun touched the bench, the song would begin. A plaque read, "If you're listening, you are not alone. This music was made to be remembered. And so were you." Tourists took photos. Children sat on the bench, trying to mimic Otto's pose. Young musicians played impromptu serenades. But the most beautiful moments came from the anonymous passers-by who, upon hearing the melody, paused, closed their eyes, and let the tears fall. Because everyone has a song tucked away. Everyone has lost someone. And everyone, at some point in life, needs the past to embrace them once again. Otto left. But not in silence. He became sound. Sound of memory. Of affection. Of friendship. Of a promise made under bombs, sealed with music, and eternalized in the hearts of all who now sing.